Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the technical analysis of ICP, Internet Computer Protocol. We have here paired up with USDT on the one-day Binance chart, and I'll be sharing my short to medium term price predictions. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, why don't you go ahead and subscribe, staying up to date with all the content that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Guys, let's get started with this one. So as you can see, we've been seeing a bit of a price dump to the downside. This is kind of very much as expected. I've been talking about this range right down here between the $6.25 to $8.23 for quite some time. We have obviously refined it over time. We did have the $7 to $8.30, which is where we've consolidated at the moment. But the most recent price action is giving us a little bit of ground for concern. We are tracking a 335 corrective pattern to the downside, where I suspect we are in the wave 4 of the C wave down. Let me show you what I mean by zooming in here on the chart. So here we have a very kind of corrective pattern overall, where we have a 3-wave correction. I'm going to remove this one just out of view for a second. We have 3 waves coming into here, right? We had that 3-wave correction to the downside. We then have a 3-wave correction to the upside, and we are now tracking a 5-wave movement to the downside, where we're looking for the wave 4 to go down into that final 5th wave movement. This is known as a 335. This is basically an A, B, C. Now that C wave is an overextension. Okay, basically a C wave should usually mirror that of the A wave, right? But in this particular case, where we have the 5-wave drop coming down here, it's an overextension, because within the structure of 335, we do not expect another 5-wave drop to the downside. It's possible, and it sure is possible, and we should consider it, but we wouldn't normally expect to see it. This is an indication that this is likely to be the end of the correction for ICP before a relief rally. We can go down afterwards, of course, but the structure should end down here in this little range between $6.32.7 and $7.03. Okay, no guarantees, but it's the most probable based on the scenarios that have at least unfolded right now within the last few weeks. Okay, so knowing that we have a 335 correction to the downside, it means that we're a part of a much bigger 3-wave correction in itself, which is this WXY structure right in here. Again, similar situation where we have the overextension within the Y wave pattern, which is a 335 in itself. And for the most part, we wouldn't normally expect it to go down lower on this scenario. It is possible, though, so we have to keep it in the back of our minds that we do have a relief rally that is, let's say, a 3-wave movement, and then we go down again in an additional 3 waves, right? Going down lower than our original kind of swing low that we're targeting down here between $6.32 and $7.03. Now, I know that a lot of this might sound really complicated, specifically if you don't au fait with Elliott Wave theory. Do jump down in the free Discord. We've got loads of resources down there so you guys can be more up to speed with what Elliott Wave theory is kind of telling us and all that kind of stuff. Now, outside of Elliott Wave theory and our targeted ranges that we can see on the chart, we do obviously have bearish movements with the 50 SMA, 50 EMA, so the yellow line's the 50 SMA, blue line's the 50 EMA, going down lower than that of the white line, the 200-day EMA. Okay, so the 200-day EMA was our support line, and we've lost that most recently over here on the 7th of June, and we slipped down lower. With the death cross of the 50 EMA, 50 SMA going down lower than the 200 EMA, we see a lot of reasons to be negative and a lot of reasons to maybe be shorting the market for ICP. Now, of course, ICP is not in isolation to the rest of the market. The entire crypto market has been performing exactly the same way. We've seen significant retracements across the board. This isn't isolated to ICP. The pattern in which we're talking about is isolated to ICP. But, for the most part, most cryptocurrencies are down, 50 or 60 or so % since their swing highs. In the case of this particular structure here, the 27th of March, down to our swing lows, it's a 64.23% correction. It kind of feels quite painful if you're new to the crypto space, but if you've been around and a seasoned investor, such as myself or Chris or the Cheeky crew, this ultimately isn't that bad, right? We were actually holding up incredibly well. And for context, you just zoom out to really take stock of the situation. This area of which we were referring to, of course, the $6.25.9 to $8.23.9 is, of course, the previous area of resistance. Okay, so previous area of resistance over in February 2023, again tested in April of 2023, May of 2023. We broke through it in December of 2023. Okay, this is now a back test to confirm that that previous area of resistance can turn into support. That's essentially what I'm looking at here for ICP. It's got a great run to the upside, but this is an area of dollar cost averaging and a huge opportunity in my opinion. Now, obviously, with Elliott wave theory predicting an end of structure and this area being previous resistance could turn to support, looking at the stochastic RSIs, we still see a lot more volatility for downward price pressure. This is an indication that we haven't yet finished just yet. We're going into the way forward to the move to the upside, and then we're going to look for that final move to the downside in that fifth wave. Daily chart is back to overbought, so we'll be looking for a crash to bring this back down to an oversold status. Again, volatility is to be expected. Take off the stochastic, bring on the relative strength index. You can see that we've still got momentum available to us for a fantastic run to the upside. Being as oversold as we are on the relative strength index is quite interesting. Obviously, we've just peaked our heads up above that oversold area, but I expect us to come back down before we get that run to the upside overall. Plenty of upward momentum available for ICP in my opinion here. Now, from the volume point of view, you can see volumes have been decreasing quite significantly as we've had this correction to the downside. This is actually then going to help with that momentum correcting itself. So as we've kind of pushed down past the 200-day EMA, the volumes have decreased with it, indicating that there isn't an appetite for buying and there isn't an appetite for selling either. So ultimately, literally holding up very, very well for ICP on the daily time frame. Okay, smart money concepts is obviously in a bearish structure since we have lost that low at $10.65. Once we lost that, we did get a bearish change of characterization here on the daily time frame. Okay, this is of course looking like a very typical three-wave correction. Equilibrium is right there above the 50 EMA, 50 SMA, 200 EMA. So we have got a weak low, strong high situation here for smart money concepts, but there's nothing else really big, bad, kind of scary going on here. A couple of fair value gaps a little bit lower in the price chart. Again, some of these are in line with our expectations of that fifth wave movement anyway. So for the most part, smart money concepts, although has printed some bearish change of characterizations, hasn't actually got anything of substance more outside of that. Ultimately, equilibrium's resistance, but so's the 200 EMA and the 50 EMA, the 50 SMA. All of those are resistances, and so this is the strong high, right? There's a lot of resistance up there, and you can't ignore that. But from the kind of demand side of things, a couple of fair value gaps have already been filled out. Another couple still remain on the chart in line with our fifth wave expectation to the downside. Once kind of completed, I'll be looking for a run to the upside and a change of characterization into a bullish state of play once again. The structures that we've seen for ICP can sometimes be a little bit scary, but for the most part, I'm not terribly too concerned. Everything's actually kind of going along as expected when it comes to Internet Computers Protocol. On a bigger macro scale, the weekly time frame, we are of course looking for a big run to the upside overall, and this is going to be targeting out some pretty interesting areas where we have got the idea of moving a three-wave pattern up towards 46.59 or 74, between I should say 46.59 and 74.53. But you can see that we have got an impulsive trigger point at $159. Should that price action go above there, we're going to be in a very interesting spot for an impulsive breakout for ICP to the upside. So for now, everything on the weekly time frame is actually pretty decent. I'm not terribly too concerned over it, and it is looking likely to see a bigger reversal in the market over the next few months. But of course, the crypto market is in a bit of a state of fear, so we need to be very mindful that a lot of people are, of course, looking at this in very bearish lenses. They haven't been used to these kind of corrections, and ultimately they're a bit scared about, seeing the rest of their money go, so they might end up selling. And again, that's the kind of fear that I like to buy. You can let me know in the comments down below, are you buying ICP during this drop, or are you a bit fearful of actually deploying your dry powder into the market? Let me know in the comments down below. If you found today's video useful and informative, smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe, and if you haven't done so yet, give this video a click and stay up to date with what else is going on in the crypto space.